Breaking Bad broke the internet. Over the mid-aughts, the show went from having a cult following to a loyal fan base to going fully mainstream. Considered by many to be one of the best TV shows ever, it was the subject of episode recaps, opinion pieces, Reddit threads, and Halloween costumes. But hold up, let's rewind this for a second. Okay, rewind a little bit more. And there. Breaking Bad was really close to never existing. The suits at the studios heard the words meth, teachers, cancer, and didn't exactly think that it'd garner millions of viewers. But AMC took a chance. They cast Bryan Cranston, aka the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, as Walter White, a high school chemistry teacher diagnosed with terminal cancer and in desperate need of money for his family. In doing so, they created one of the most iconic anti-heroes of all time, up there with Tony Soprano, Omar from The Wire, Don Draper, and many more. Walter teams up with Jesse Pinkman, a former student, combining Walter's knowledge of chemistry with Jesse's knowledge of drug dealing.
But you know the business, and I know the chemistry.
But there's a little problem. You know, aside from Walt and Jesse getting along as well as oil and water. Walt's brother-in-law, Hank? Yeah, he's a DEA agent. So how does this all play out? Let's start at the beginning. Walter White lives a pretty regular life. He's a school teacher, has a wife and son, a mortgage, lives in the suburbs. But Walt isn't exactly a regular guy. But we'll get back to that. Walt gets diagnosed with cancer, and the prognosis is grim.
Lung cancer. Inoperable.
It gets even more grim when he realizes that he needs money to pay for all the treatments. He's a teacher. His son has special needs. How the hell's he gonna come up with all that cash? Enter Jesse Pinkman.
What up, biatch?
A former student. See, remember how Walt's brother-in-law, Hank, is a DEA agent? Well, Hank takes him on a ride-along. Here, he sees and recognizes Jesse, who barely escapes Hank's grasp. Turns out, Jesse's a meth cook. Walt sees how much money can be made from meth, and he's also got Jesse by the balls.
You little bitch.
Jesse may have failed Walt's chemistry class, but the guy can cook some meth. These unlikely bedfellows get an RV, drive out to the desert, and start cooking. Then, well, you know, turf disputes and cartel guys, and soon enough, they're disposing of bodies. Back to Walt and his whole money issue. So, Walt is kind of a genius. In fact, he was the third member of Gray Matter, a multi-billion-dollar science company. He sold all of his shares for $5,000 a dozen years ago, though. Oops. Now, his old partners want to help pay for his cancer treatments, but Walt's as prideful as he is smart. The money's gonna come from meth, but who's buying? Tuco Salamanca loves Walt's meth.
Tight, yeah! Blue, yellow, pink! Whatever, man, just keep bringing me that.
He's also psychotic and beats Jesse to a pulp after stealing the meth that Jesse tried to sell him. Walt uses that big brain of his to create a bomb disguised as meth. And that scares Tuco enough to pay Walt and Jesse, which means Walt's got enough for treatments for the near future. But these guys are just getting started. So to recap, Walter's got cancer and needs money. Walter's a chemistry genius. Walter enlists the help of Jesse, who's kind of a punk, with the whole drug dealing part of the plan. Tuco, the nutjob cartel guy, is buying as much meth as these guys can make, which is great for Walt's finances. Two problems. One, Walter's family thinks that Gretchen and Elliot, Walt's former business partners, are paying for his treatments. And two, Tuco is bat-shiz crazy. Did I mention that part? Tuco wants to send Walt and Jesse to Mexico to cook meth for the cartel. Indefinitely, and he isn't asking. So they figure out a way to get rid of Tuco by dosing his food with ricin, a poison that you can make with cat. Never mind, we're not going to go into that. You've got the internet.
Tried to poison you. Because you're an insane, degenerate piece of filth, and you deserve to die.
So the ricin doesn't work because Tuco's uncle, Hector, spotted it. Now Hector can't talk, though he can only ring a bell attached to his wheelchair. In the meantime, Walter's been gone for a while, and his family's worried. Skyler asks Hank if he can find Walt, leading Hank to Jesse's parents, leading Hank to Jesse's car, leading Hank to... Yeah, Tuco's no mas. Now Walter and Jesse escape before Hank sees him. Walt's got the bright idea to pretend like it was the cancer. Talk about a dick move. So Walter's leading a double life. And one, he's a dad and a husband and a teacher and a kind, cancer-ridden soul. Oh, and the other, he's Heisenberg, math kingpin, ruthless, mean, deadly, and he's like in one life a little more than the other. But can you really blame the guy? He's become a legend around the ABQ. Jesse's having some issues of his own. Thieves, other dealers, occupational hazards. Thankfully, he's got two of his boys, Badger and Skinny Pete. These dudes rule. Downshot, Badger gets arrested. The silver lining, we get to meet the one, the only Saul Goodman, sleazy attorney at law. I mean, the guy actually has a white caddy with a license plate that says that. Awesome dude though. Saul's right-hand man, a guy named Mike Ehrmantraut. Walter's bills are piling up. Jesse needs more scratch, and Saul puts them in touch with Gustavo, fast food proprietor and meth super kingpin. Now, after some touch-and-go spots and scary situations, they work out a deal with Gus, and boy, is it a lot of money. Jesse moves into a new crib under the name Jesse James. Really, Pinkman? Couldn't come up with anything better than that? His new landlord, Jane's a recovering heroin addict who finds it suspicious when he pays the entire year's rent in cash. But hey, whatever. Jane soon becomes his girlfriend and soon relapses. But we all saw that one coming a mile away. Walt owes Jesse almost $500,000 from their last deal, but he knows Jesse's on drugs and won't give it to him till he's clean. Now Jane ain't having that. She blackmails Walt, who comes over with the money only to find the young couple passed out. Then Jane starts to overdose. And Walt just kinda lets her. Naturally, Jesse is crushed. Walter's secretly relieved that this chick is out of Jesse's life and offers to send Jesse to rehab. So, just to recap, two goes nuts. Gus is in, Jesse was in love, but she died. Walt's probably more Heisenberg than Walt at this point, and he's hiding in plain sight, dealing with the biggest meth distributor in the Southwest. Gus, the fast food king. Now everybody loves Walt's blue meth. It's a Heisenberg secret formula. Now all the while, his DEA brother-in-law Hank has got no idea that Walt is Heisenberg. Yeah, problematic. When season 3 starts, Jesse's in rehab. Walt decides to stop making meth for about 5 minutes. His family knows that he's doing some pretty shady stuff, and they've had it up to here with the guy. Jesse gets out of rehab, buys his folks' old crib, but oops, that was all of his money. So he and Walt are back in business, and they both want the cash, but Walt is really starting to like this Heisenberg alter ego of his. People fear him. People respect him, unlike the snot-nosed little bastards that he teaches all day. Gustavo Fring. Remember, the chicken guy? Yeah, he gives Walt and Jesse a freaking super lab to cook as much meth as they can. Hank, Walt's brother-in-law, the one who's looking for Walt, but of course doesn't know it's Walt, yeah, he's getting closer. He's peeking around. Gus doesn't like that very much, so Gus sends a couple of cartel hitters to take Hank out, leading to a super tense scene in a parking lot. Hank's in a wheelchair. Gus is micromanaging the hell out of Walt and Jesse, and maybe kinda sorta trying to drive a wedge between them. Remember Walt's moonlighting job from the first episode, the car wash? Well, he's got so much damn money now, it's time to launder it. So, with Saul Goodman's legal assistance and some illegal assistance, Walt buys a car wash, and Skylar launders money through it. A lot of money. Like a freaking lot of money. Gus is not happy about this. He wants to kill Walt and Jesse. Jesse goes off the map, and Walt tells Gus that he doesn't know where he is. All this time, though, they're hatching a plan. See, Gus had a replacement cook in mind, a nerdy dude named Gale. Gale's nice enough, but...
To abort. The countdown starts.
Yeah, anyway. Walt realizes that his already short life expectancy just got way shorter. Gus is gonna have Mike kill Walt, except Walt, using that big brain, realizes that Gus doesn't have a business without a cook. And if Gale can't cook, Walt and Jesse get to stay alive. He's such a nice kid, helping out his old teacher like that. He wasn't a huge fan of murdering an innocent dude, but hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. And business is business, and business is good. So to recap, Jesse and Walt are on thin ice with Gus, Walt's on thin ice with Skyler, Hank's in a wheelchair but is obsessed with finding this Heisenberg guy, aka his brother-in-law Walt. Down in that super lab, Gus reminds Walt and Jesse who's boss by taking a freaking box cutter to one of the throats of one of Gus's own lieutenants. Walt's scared, and he legitimately should be. He even goes out and buys a gun. Mike tells him that it won't help, and he's probably right. But hey, whatever helps you sleep at night, Walt. Oh, so new cars, new car wash, all this money? Hank and his wife Marie, who by the way is kind of a klepto and kind of a bitch. Anyway, Walt and Skyler concoct some story about Walt counting cards at underground blackjack games. Kinda lame, but it works. Mike takes Jesse under his wing, even starts to like the kid, and here we were thinking Mike didn't like anybody at all. So Gus had it in for the cartel all this time. See, way back when, they killed his friend and business partner. Under the guise of giving them a new meth cook, Gus and Mike fly Jesse down to Mexico, where Gus takes out the whole damn cartel. Dude's got balls of brass. But here's the thing, Gus still wants Walt dead. He threatens Walt's family. So Walt goes to Saul, who tells him about a guy who will disappear you from the planet for a hefty fee. Walt says great, but only one problem. Skyler kinda spent most of Walt's nest egg on bailing out herself and her old boss, Ted. Remember Tuco's uncle with the bell? Yeah, it turns out he was the one who killed Gus's old partner. Gus goes to see him sometimes just to torture him, metaphysically speaking. This time though, things get loud. See, Walt had rigged Hector's wheelchair with enough explosives to wipe out Hector, Gus, and the whole freaking floor of a nursing home. What a guy! So, to recap, Gus and Walt were on a collision course. Skyler and Walt are an unhappily married couple who are partners in a money laundering business, on top of Walt's primary business being Heisenberg.
I am the danger.
The 5th season starts off in the future, something called a flash forward, and it shows Walt with a beard, not looking too good, stopping at Denny's for a birthday breakfast and a machine gun. Bacon and bullets, the cornerstone of any birthday and American democracy. But in the here and now, Hank's leveling up, determined to find, well, Walt. There's a new character, the epically named Lydia Rodarte Quayle. Okay, here's the thing. She is super freaking hot. And she's successful AF, and she's been helping Gus's meth operation through the business that she works for, Madrigal. Now, she's got to deal with these two knuckleheads. With Gus gone, the lab is gone too. So with the help of super lawyer Saul, the guys find a new way to cook their blue meth. Yep, kill some termites, cook some drugs, all in a day's work. Except for the fact that Gus's resources are almost gone and the chemicals are running low. So as a nice little callback to Jesse's pseudonym, we're gonna go full Jesse James and rob a train. Cause let's be real, where else are you gonna find methylamine? Oh, and that Opie looking dude? Now that's Todd, part of the pest crew. Now this poor kid happened to witness him rob the train and Todd shot the guy. Well, we all know how Jesse feels about hurting kids. But the guys are back in business. They make a new distribution deal with some cat named Declan set up through Mike. Now Walt's fully Heisenberg now, and Mike, he is fully out. Dunsky, retired, except Hank's on to him, which means that he can't get his stash of money. Walt volunteers to go and get it for him, but Walt only ever does anything for Walt. See, Walt wanted the names of everyone who knows about him, the people from Gus's old crew, but Mike wouldn't give them up, and Walt shot him. From chemistry to criminality, Walt's going up in flames, so to speak. Remember that Gale guy, that one Jesse killed, who worked for Gus? Yeah, Hank puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that Walter is Heisenberg. Now that's a big oopsie. So to recap part 1 of season 5, Distribution issues, supply chain issues, familial issues, money issues. Walt's your average American, just with less hair and a lot more money. So Hank knows, and Walt knows that Hank knows, which is bad news. Except Walt figures out a mutually assured destruction kind of deal. He makes it seem like Hank was actually in on it the whole time. He even makes this crazy false confession tape too. Now Hank can't do anything. Not yet anyway. Meanwhile, Jesse, well, he's a mess. He realizes finally that Walt's become an absolute freaking monster, so he decides to team up with Hank. Walt is starting to feel like the walls are closing in on him. Remember Todd? Well, it turns out that Todd's Uncle Jack is part of the Aryan Brotherhood. Yeah, a real freaking neo-Nazi. So, when Hank finally apprehends Walt, Walt sends word to Jack's crew, and bum bum bum, Hank dies.
Listen, I have money. I have money.
At Jack's hand, and all that money that Walt had hidden out in the desert, Jack takes all but 10 million of it. Now poor old Walt. He got his brother-in-law killed, he sold out Jesse, and he's only got $10 million left. No, but he really did sell Jesse out. Now, initially, he wanted Jack to kill Jesse, but Todd wants Jesse to cook meth for them because he's got a crush on Lydia. Oh, Lydia. So, Walt has the dough to get off the grid this time, except his family won't come with him.
No! I tried to save him!
Well, Walt goes anyway. To a cabin in Vermont where he's wasting away, except for a guy with cancer, Walt's really hard to kill. Even cancer can't bring this dude down. And he's got all the time in the world to plot his sweet revenge. Walt comes back to Albuquerque, and everybody knows the deal now. Even his old neighbor is scared to death of him.
Hello, Carol.
He poisons Lydia. He gets Todd to take him to Uncle Jack's Nazi compound under the pretense of teaching him a new meth formula. But Walt had other plans. Oh, and he liberates Jesse. Maybe he wasn't such a bad guy after all. But in all that excitement, Walt got hit. Now he's bleeding all over the place. And in a full circle way, Walt dies while admiring the beauty of his creation, that baby blue meth. Ironic. So, yeah, moral of the story there, kiddos, just say no to, well, doing the drugs, at least. Hope you enjoyed this recap of one of the most seminal shows of the decade. Don't be afraid to check out more below.